Right. Good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Surbiton Neighbourhood Committee at Glenmore House. Particularly warm welcome to those members of the public with us tonight. I'm Councillor Tom Reeve and I'm chairing this meeting. In the event of an emergency and the sounding of an alarm, the emergency evacuation procedure is to leave the hall by the fire exit, the one behind you, and congregate in the car park. Anyone requiring assistance should remain in their seats and you'll be assisted from the building. Anybody who wishes to follow the agenda from their tablet or smartphone can do so by going to the Council's website and following the links to Your Council and Council meeting calendar. This meeting is being filmed for a live broadcast on the Council's YouTube channel, and an archived version will be available to view after the meeting finishes. The broadcast will be suspended during any adjournments in proceedings and if the committee resolves to consider information as exempt business. Members are reminded that microphones must be switched on and spoken into clearly for the broadcast, please. And please, can everyone present in the meeting also ensure that their mobile phones are switched off or in silent mode. So I'll start by inviting members to introduce themselves. And I suppose looking straight across at me, I'll start with the member from St Mark's.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Councillor Diane White from St Mark's and Seething Wells.
Good evening. I'm Councillor Alison Holt and I represent Surbiton Hill Ward.
Good evening. I'm Councillor Amir Ali Khan. I also represent Surbiton Hill Ward.
I'm Councillor Peter Hurling and I represent Alexander Ward.
I'm Councillor Ian Manders. I represent with Peter my Alexandra Ward, and I'm also the portfolio holder for climate action, biodiversity and planning policy.
Good evening. I'm Anita Sharper. I'm a councillor in Berrylands Ward.
And I'm Jackie Davis, also from Berrylands Ward.
Andrew Waldridge, Tolworth.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ty Tarlin and I'm Tolworth Ward as well.
Mariana Gonsalves from Tolworth as well.
George Vickers, Principal Engineer for Plan Maintenance and Traffic Orders, Kingston Sutton Shared Service. Thank you.
Okay, and I see Councillor has just walked in, our Mayor.
Apologies, Chair, for being slightly late. Councillor Liz Green, St Mark's Ward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, members. So before we proceed to the agenda business, I just had a little something I wanted to say. I'd like to let the committee know that Elliot Newton, the Council's Biodiversity Officer, will be leaving the Council later this month. Elliot is a well-known to members as well as many volunteers and residents who enjoy our green spaces, parks and nature reserves. He has made important contributions to Surbiton's biodiversity, and Elliot will be taking on a new role at Community Zoo, where he will continue to work on local projects. But I just wanted to say on behalf of the committee, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Elliot for his service to the Council and offer our best wishes for his future endeavours. Thank you very much. Now we're going to move on to public questions. So we have a period of no more than 30 minutes for questions on matters relevant to the committee. We like to encourage questions to be submitted in advance so that officers have an opportunity to answer them, although this is not absolutely necessary. Questions will be asked in the order in which notice of them was received, but as the Chair, I may exercise discretion provided in the procedure rules to change the order in the interest of the efficient conduct of the meeting. I will invite each person to ask one question, and you'll be given the opportunity to ask a supplementary question if appropriate. Any subsequent questions you may have will be considered only after all other residents have had the opportunity to ask their first questions, if time allows. So I ask people to be as concise as possible, and please keep your question under 2 minutes. If you wish to preface the question with a statement, please be brief and to the point. Herman will inform you when 30 seconds are left and when time is up. So is James Stanton here? Yes. Right. Welcome, Mr. Stanton.
Hello.
And
thank you.
Yeah, please ask your question.
Sure. So my first question, well, I'll do my first question and come back if I've got time. So my first question is, I'm speaking on behalf of a number of residents of Surbiton Hill Ward who are concerned about plans to add an extra storey to Malvern Court, which is a small 2-storey building in the ward. Despite it being refused previously, the applicants have now contacted residents to say that they are very confident, having spoken to the planners, that they can get approval this time. We contacted the council to ask if we could have the name of a planning officer so we could also seek some views or some advice as residents. We're obviously not professionals. And we were told that we were not allowed to speak to planning officers, that they were too busy. We could not have their contact details. And so I'm here today to basically to ask when the decision was taken by councillors that residents were not allowed to speak to planning officers anymore. It used to be that the neighbourhood planning officer was kind of the first port of call for planning information about the area. Who will support the residents if we're not allowed to actually speak to the planning officers that we actually pay for? And if they will only speak to the applicants, how can this be fair or democratic when considering representations? Because we've been told we're not allowed to speak to them until an application is in, and then we're allowed to send in a comment and it will be included in the report. We're not allowed any advice.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stanton. Right. Okay, thank you. Just taking some advice from a Democratic Services officer. I mean, first of all, we can't address any specific planning applications, and we here at this committee. And I know there are rules about contacting planning officers. If any of my colleagues, I think I saw a hand going up over there, could have more information about this, I'd appreciate it. Councillor Holt.
Thank you. I think you said it was a Surbiton Hill application. That you
yes,
were,
it
yes.
is.
Yeah. I'm Surbiton Hill Ward Councillor, and I'm happy to meet with you to discuss it. I mean, obviously, what we have to be careful of as councillors is if we're determining an application, then we can certainly meet and discuss, and if there's something that I can perhaps raise with the planning officers, happy to do that. And if and so it depends what the concerns are, and if I can follow up, you can contact me directly or one of the other ward councillors for Surbiton Hill if you'd prefer.
The residents would be very, very pleased to take up on that. I think
Okay.
there is an underlying point that there is a kind of concern that the sort of Contact Kingston service is more of a deflect residents away from taking up council time rather than being able to access the services that we all pay for. So I would ask that somebody looks into how these questions are being fielded by the switchboard.
Okay. Councillor Manders.
Yeah, so as I said earlier, I have responsibility for planning policy, which is different, as it were, from planning decisions which are made in the planning committee or by officers under delegated powers. First of all, can I thank my colleague, Councillor Holt, for stepping forward and agreeing to meet you. I will look into the matter as you've reported it to the meeting, but I would like to say is that as a local authority, we are really a local planning authority. We really are under constraint at the moment. We are very short of planning officers, and it's very hard to recruit them at the moment in London, in particular. But that's a question of resources, not a question of not being able to speak to you, if you see what I mean. So I will find out about that particular issue. But as I say, there are absolute very serious constraints on us at the moment. We can't recruit enough planning officers. Thank you.
So just,
Okay, thank you very much,
just to
Councillor Mendes.
confirm that there is no policy that residents can't speak to the planning officers then. That was incorrect. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Stanton. I understand you have a second question, but
Yes.
I'd like to ask everybody else
Yeah.
to have a chance first, and then you come back.
Will do.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you very much. Okay, could I ask if Rob, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Heiliger? No, no, not present. Okay, right. Okay, and could I ask Andy Elmer? Right. Welcome, Mr. Elmer, and please ask your question.
Right. First of all, I want a little praise because I suspect one of the few people who actually have read through the whole of the report on the Surbiton Neighbourhood Community Plan. So I'm now, unfortunately, not much wiser on why in its current form the exercise has been carried out, and I can't see how it assists very much with decision making. I note it's attracted relatively few comments, and in some cases none other than the proposers of several of the measures, and certainly only a minuscule proportion of the electorate of Surbiton has contributed in any way. I think that deems the exercise a failure in public engagement. I also think that tiny proportion renders it not significant enough to warrant consideration of the suggestions. However, what that tiny proportion does do is allows all manner of weird and wonderful suggestions to get into the report before you today. Some show very little awareness of the likely pitfalls of what's proposed, and even less exhibit knowledge of the straitened financial times we live in. Maybe the call should be for ways to save money, not to splurge limited resources on a range of sometimes wacky ideas. I could easily have said that I want more protection from meteorites to meet the safety criteria, or to have Surbiton Station painted in rainbow colours to promote inclusivity. But no doubt this would have had the same po-faced reception and be included in the tome for you to pore over. It's obvious this system isn't working, and a lot more work needs to be done to enthuse and engage residents. On a personal level, I feel insulted that the SNC will be giving time to consider this poorly supported exercise when the committee obfuscated over considering the petition of more than 2,000 residents objecting to the King Charles Road closure. My question is, do you agree?
Well, thank you very much for your question. We're committed to consulting with residents. We've opened up the consultation for residents. Anybody who wanted to participate in that was welcome to do so. The suggestions that have come forward, obviously, will then be considered, as part of a broader plan. And any issues, as you say, with the feasibility of various ideas, will obviously, they'll all be scrutinised. All of the ideas will be scrutinised. They're kind of a starter, a starting position for us to see what kind of ideas people came forward with. So it's perfectly, it's in keeping with our commitment to consult with residents about things like this, and the purpose was to give basically create a guide for people who may be considering applying for several of the different grant allocations that are available. Again, all of those applications are scrutinised and considered by officers and councillors. So I suppose the short answer is I take your point, the point that you're making, but I probably on balance don't agree with it. Did you have a supplementary question?
The supplementary question is, you know, obviously I accept your position, but do you think you've done it effectively, or should you be doing it more effectively? Because I think that this has been, in its current form, is a waste of time, and you should either beef it up or get rid of it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your view on that. We'll take that into consideration. But in the absence of any ideas for how to do that, well, if you have any suggestions for how to do that, please email me. Mr. Stanton, did you have a second question?
Yes, please. So, this is also about Surbiton Hill Ward, so maybe I should just... Sorry? Yes, I have. Yes. Didn't you notice I haven't been bothering you anymore? Sorry about that. Yes, so this is about the street lighting report, which is part of the, obviously, the highway maintenance item later in the agenda. But I think I can raise it separately. It's probably easier. Just to say, one of the items you'll notice in your completed list is the footpath by Malvern Road. That name, again, you might recognise from earlier. In November, December, about that time, 2023, we raised an issue with a light basically shining straight into the windows of the flats because there was no shield on the street light. There is a shield on the neighbouring street light that faces houses. It's a bit weird that there isn't one for the flats. It was marked on the website as resolved, completed. So we waited for the works. By September 2024, there was still no sign of anything happening. So I contacted the council again through Contact Kingston, through all the processes that we're told to. For 10 weeks, me and somebody in the contact centre attempted to get someone in the street lighting team to actually respond to the query. Finally, it was put in as a complaint, at which time we were told, well, actually, we were thinking of replacing that street light, which is why we didn't look into the shielding. And it was in the programme to be paid for the previous year. However, we ran out of money, so we decided not to do it. But now you've raised it, we're going to do it again. So I looked on in the report and was surprised to see that it's marked as completed. So I just wanted to sort of draw attention...
30 seconds.
Sorry, draw attention to the fact, and my question, I suppose, is that our councillors being informed when these things, whether they do or don't go ahead, obviously there are changes in year with finances, etc., that's fine, but are they involved? At the end of that process, I'm a bit concerned, and my query is, how do you know what's actually been done and what not been done when the reports before you say that these lights have been replaced already and now are looking for more funding for next year? And the third thing is that, can I just finish this line? Promise. Are there any performance-related bonuses that go to any contractors about which lights they do, which lights they've finished, which lights are on their list? Because I did ask this question and never received a response because I'm very worried that people are marking resolved on the website and nothing gets done. And then people are saying lights have been fitted and none have been changed. Is there contract management in place to protect the taxpayer money in this?
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that, Mr. Stanton. And I'm sorry to hear about the situation with the light and the difficulty you've had in getting that resolved. In the first instance, we encourage residents to report issues via the website because that's the most efficient way for it to go to the team, to the various team members who are responsible for resolving those issues. If you ever run into a problem, though, where you're not getting a resolution to a problem, then a really good thing to do is contact your local councillor because we can escalate that very quickly to senior officers or portfolio holders to find out what's going on and get a resolution. We can often get a resolution, well, certainly much quicker than you've been experiencing here. I don't know the ins and outs of this particular case, but I think we can certainly take it away and investigate that. And so I believe you said it was it Malvern?
It's a footpath, Malvern footpath, which runs from Hook Road to Malvern Road.
Malvern.
by Malvern Close.
Oh,
One day I'll find out what a Malvern is. But
right. Okay. Malvern footpath. Okay. Certainly we can look into that and try and find out what's happening with that.
it was great. And if you could just bear in mind when the list goes through later on, that some of those items that have been marked as done might not have been done. So if you could, in your comments, emphasise that you expect those to be finished before they start spending money on the ones they haven't done yet, that would be much appreciated.
Okay, right. I'll take your point on board. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stanton. Oh, excuse me, Councillor Manders. I didn't see you.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that did remind me a bit, Chair, of an episode of One Foot in the Grave, when a vehicle knocks a street lamp into the bedroom of the hero, One Foot in the Grave, and they have to be in bed with blindfolds on because the street light is shining all night in their bedroom. Anyway, when it comes to the street lamp program, we have almost finished now the replacement of the old lamps with the new LEDs, and it's a program which is extremely successul. It's basically will pay for itself in a few years in terms of the electricity cost saved, and it also gives us an opportunity as well to eventually, when we adopt a program, that we can also fine-tune the individual light output of individual street lamps centrally, and so eventually this street lamp should be done. The footpaths tend to be a slower priority than the main streets where there's motor vehicles, but it will be done eventually. But I think this is something definitely I think that we need to have a look at, and just the way that it's been handled in this particular case.
Thank you. I believe George Vickers had something to add.
Thank you, Chair. All I was going to say, I'm happy to report that back to colleagues in street lighting, as I'll just declare that I cover the planned maintenance functions solely, but I discussed the street lighting aspects with my street lighting colleagues when putting this report together, as we was asked to combine both functions into one report. So yeah, I'm happy to relay that back to them as well, but if that could be noted, I'm sure we can get a response to that, as it sounds like it needs to be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George. Okay. Oh, right. Mr. Elmer, did you have a second question? Okay. Go ahead.
I'll start with an apology. I didn't manage to get along to the previous meeting, so I've only, I have a life. So I've now had a look at the emasculated plan to solve the traffic problems in Berrylands, and the only really comment I have is that I wish it wasn't my money that was being spaffed about for so little benefit. But I, along with many others, maybe as many as 2,000 others, remain convinced there never was a problem with traffic in Berrylands, at least not until the King Charles Road barrier was imposed on us. Looking at the meagre contents of the plan, the one new element is the proposed experimental closure of Tolworth Close. On the face of it, this looks like another non-problem for which a solution has been devised. I'd be keen to know what criteria will be used to determine whether the scheme, that's probably a big word for this bit of tinkering, is a success or not. Will it be yet another exercise in refusing to believe any problem has been caused by the closure, or will it be based on some dodgy statistics the borough collects?
Excuse me, Councillor. Yeah, please. Excuse me. We'll be courteous to our guests. Thank you. Yeah. Fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Right. Councillor Hurlinger, I think you might want to, since this is in your ward.
It is in my ward. I think if you'd read the report, you would have noticed that the officer mentioned the air quality that currently prevails in Tolworth Close and how this should be improved with the temporary closure, which obviously answers your other question, which is how do you measure it? If the air quality improves, then it's a success.
Could I just say, do you seriously...
sorry, we're not getting into debate.
No,
I'm sorry,
okay,
we can't get into a debate
here. For a supplement,
but I would like to, yeah, you've asked the question, so I'm going to get a couple of answers here. Councillor Manders.
Yeah, there are safety issues with Tolworth Close. it's in mine and Councillor Erlinger's ward, so we know it very well. It's one of those unfortunate places where it started off primarily really as the back loading entrance for shops and for various businesses there, but over time various parts of premises have been converted to housing. So there are people living there, and there's always been people living in flats over the shops as well, whose entrances are at the back anyway, in what is really a service road. So it's not really designed for throughput traffic. And there are some parts of the close where there is no footway. So people would leave their flats and directly walk into the road. It's got a lot of issues and problems, and it is used as a rat run to avoid the traffic lights on your road. So it gets very busy at times, and it's on the sat nav. The sat nav will show you to go down through Tolworth Close, to exit from into your road. For your road into the Broadway. So there are a number of good reasons, and also a number of residents as well have complained about it being used as a rat run, and that's why we've been considering that we should find some way to stop it being used as a rat run. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Manders. And do you have a supplementary question, Mr. Elmer?
It was to take up those points, if I may. I mean, first of all, you don't seem to worry about conflict between pedestrians and cyclists when you're using shared pavements, and certainly the suggestion that you can actually measure air quality differences by closing Tolworth Close is absolute nonsense in my book. I'm sorry, you don't collect much of it in Berrylands. To do it in a street of less than 100 yards is nonsense.
Okay, so thank you very much, Mr. Elmer. Thank you for coming and asking your question tonight. Your questions. Do we have any further questions, Herman? No, we have no further questions. So thank you very much. Excuse me, a comment. Sorry, from Councillor Green.
Not a comment on that. I was waiting for the end of the question on because I missed declarations of interest. Not yet. Okay.
I appreciate your keenness. We'll get to that in a moment. Right. Okay. So first, I must say regarding.
This one is not relevant, so there's.
Oh, okay. Right. Okay. Right. So I'll go to apologies for absence. Herman, do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Apologies received from Councillor Yogan Nathan.
Okay. Unfortunately, Jürgen couldn't be with us, but we wish him a speedy recovery. Right. So now we move on to declarations of interest. So do any members have any declarations of interest? Why did I think you were going to raise your hand? Councillor Green.
Thank you. It's on the Namaste's application, and I'd like Herman's advice, and I'm sorry I didn't question you on this before, Herman. But as Mayor, I have been invited as one of the guests, not paying for the event, and I noticed that in their budget, that's what part of this funding is for. So I consider I probably do have a pecuniary interest, but I'd like your advice, but I am going along. I've already accepted the invitation, really looking forward to it. I'm probably slightly prejudiced because I really want to go as well. So I will declare it as pecuniary interest because I'm not paying, and therefore withdraw for the item, or whatever the terminology is I'm supposed to use.
Yes, Herman.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, from what you mentioned, can I just clarify if the applicant is a recipient of the mayor's charities? That is not the case. But you just Councillor Green, you just mentioned that you are being invited to the event.
So it's a ticketed event. I am invited, and on the list it says refreshment hospitality for chief guests and artists.
Oh, I see.
Whether
okay.
I'm the chief guest or a guest, I'm not sure. But
okay.
And I'm certainly a guest. of the event,
Yeah.
and therefore there is a sum towards that £7,000
Okay.
that goes to my ticket.
Not yet. So, Chair, if I may, I would advise that you actually don't have anything to declare in terms of interest, but after attending that event, if you wish to declare the refreshment or hospitality, you're encouraged to do so. But I mean, in terms of the decision tonight, I do not think that you are involved in any registrable interest or non-registrable interest. Yeah.
I'm afraid I don't agree, Herman. I will declare it
You
as
do
an
want
interest,
to? Oh,
because
no
obviously
problem.
it's up to me. And it's actually, sorry, I have to have
No problem.
your advice. It's because I will be effectively the recipient of an element of the money that this committee may or may not decide to give to the event. So as Mayor, I don't declare it later, but for this, I feel that it would be wrong for me to say, yes, let's give me a free ticket. That feels wrong. So I will declare it as an interest, whatever. I'm not sure whether that class is a pecuniary interest or a disclosable interest, a non-pecuniary disclosable interest.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Chair, may I, I mean, yeah, councillors all regularly will receive refreshment or hospitality like tickets. It's only for them. You don't mean, but I mean, I have encountered other members who declare that to me after the events, which is already sufficient, I would advise. But I mean, Councillor Green, if you are insisting to leave the debate and voting, that's really fine, and I will, that's it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Councillor Green. Councillor Tylan?
Sorry, I'm also in the same situation. I've been invited, I've been to the events in the past, but I always paid for the ticket. But I don't know whether I should declare any interest as such. But
Okay, are you going to be paying for a ticket?
yes,
Okay.
I'll pay.
No, I think we're fine. I love this. People are getting a real lesson in council ethics here. This is great. Are there any other declarations of interest to be made? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so moving on, we have the minutes. So we have the minutes of the meeting held on the 17th of December have been circulated to members. Everybody agree that they're okay? Yes? Agreed. Thank you very much. I will sign them after the meeting. So we move on to the Community Grants Program. So we have, we're going to be considering two applications. Members and meeting participants can refer to Appendix A of the agenda pack. And I hand over to James Geach.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, that's right. The committee has once again been asked to consider awards as part of its grant programme, the first of which is a Neighbourhood community grant application from Namaste Kingston Community Interest Company. As you can see in the report, they're applying for a £2,800 grant to support their upcoming Holi Festival. Members will see on the table in front of them, I circulated earlier.
I was going to say, is this where you're going to step out, are you? Yeah.
This presentation, which the applicant has kindly shared with me this afternoon, and Shadar is here, and she's very kindly agreed to briefly talk about the application and what the CIC will use the money for should the grant be awarded. I'm happy to take any questions after that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. So, right. Hello? Right. Hello and welcome. Look forward to hearing from you.
Hello. So I have put the pack with everyone, which kind of gives the brief overview of what Namaste Kingston is. We started a year and a half back in September 2023 with the idea of bringing the multicultural communities across the borough together. We primarily represent South Asian, or rather Indian community, but all our events are inclusive, so it's open to everyone. It's not just for the Indian community. So our two major events we do are Diwali and Holi, and then we do a lot of, and these are our ticketed events, and then we do a lot of free community educational information evenings around financial well-being, mental health, physical well-being. So next month we will also be running lots of free yoga and mental health and financial well-being sessions. So the idea is community cohesion, and also a lot of our events, especially these two big events, we support local businesses. So in past 1 year, we have supported 40 plus local businesses, and over 2,000 plus local residents have now attended our events from Diwali to Holi. So our first event was Diwali in South Borough School in 2023 November, which had around 350 residents attending the event. And this Diwali in 24, we had around 700. So definitely we are gaining the traction, and people are seeing the value that we bring. So yeah, so that's about Namaste Kingston. Last Holi, we were one of the first events in the borough to go green. So we measured our carbon impact, and I have, it's a soft copy. Maybe if, James, if you can email the soft copy to all the councillors, there is a link to the Rangotsav carbon impact as well. So we are trying to be sustainable and have minimal impact on the environment and climate, as well as we are inclusive and diverse community we support. I have also included some of the glimpses from the events. So the coming event, which is Holi, we are doing at Holyfield School. And the grant what we are requesting will be like the spreadsheet which I had submitted a few weeks back. Obviously, we have recalculated the cost and everything. So in fact, our costs are going up much more. But I'm hoping that we will also have a lot more traction, and we will be able to sell a lot more tickets as well. So at the moment, we are deficit of around 3,300. So with all the costs and projected income. So in terms of, I'm hoping that we will have 600 paid tickets. So that will cover around, so the numbers have gone up drastically now. But with that, because we also source organic holy colors from Women's Self-Help Group. And in last 1 year, the transportation cost getting overseas from India has increased massively. So yeah, so that's what we are looking for in terms of the grant, and I'm hoping that whatever the deficit is, we will be able to push in a little bit more of the sales and cover it through the grant plus the additional ticket sales. One reason why we are doing at Holyfield School is the facilities manager. He is very lovely, and he has been very open about how the school needs funds for the repairs and everything. So through our events, what we are also trying to do is support the local schools and community as much as we do, so we can do. So yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that, that introduction. And I'd just like to ask, do any members have questions for the applicant? Oh, yes. Councillor Manders and then Councillor Tyler.
Yes, a couple of questions. Just asking really why you're a community company rather than a charity. And also, it's a ticketed event as well.
Correct.
So how much, I know there's a membership ticket event, I've just been looking at your website. So for non-members, what will the ticket price be?
Yeah, so we are, for members only, when we launched earlier this month, like we had around 200 tickets at members only price at £8. Okay. And now for non-members, it's £10. So there's just difference of £2 between members and non-members at the moment. And why we are CIC and not a charity? When we started a year and a half back, to be very honest, what we also thought was that we don't just want to rely on grants. We also should be able to kind of generate funds through these events, which we can reinvest back in the community. So that was the primary reason that we don't want to be restricted by charity commissions. I understand there are a lot more rules and restrictions if you are a registered charity, and we wanted to. But the whole thing is, it's kind of what we do is not for profit, and any funds that we generate are invested back in the community through our free events that we do for the community.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
And it is volunteer-led, so all of us have our full-time jobs, and this we all do as our volunteering activity in the community.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tyler. Yes.
Thank you. I thought it would be probably better if you sort of give some details about what the Holy Festival means. I mean, I know, but there are a lot of people probably might know. And what's the significance of that festival? And how many communities that really get involved? And perhaps you can explain the secret of that.
Yeah, sorry, it was in my mind, but I completely forgot when I was doing the introduction. So Holi, it's a festival of spring and festival of colors. So March is the time when like winters are ending and the sun is coming out, flowers are blooming. So that's kind of festival of colors. So in India, what you do is you throw dry colors on each other and celebrate that new life coming up through the colors, music, dance. And also there is some mythological stories behind, most of our Indian mythology stories will be the, winning of good over the evil. So there was a story about a king and his son was a devotee of a particular god, whereas the king wanted everyone to pray him or consider him the god, but his son defied him, and therefore he wanted to punish him, but the god came and protected this child. So that was the victory of good, and therefore you do a little bit of bonfire as well on the day. So you celebrate that you burn the bad and the good is coming out, something similar to that. Sorry, I'm not explaining it very well, but mainly it's the two things, new life, spring, and festival of colors. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. That sounds, are there any other questions from councillors? No? Okay, well, thank you. If you'd like to return to your seat, we'll have a, now debate this. So I'll move from the chair the following recommendation that the application for £2,800 of neighbourhood community grant from Namaste Kingston CIC as set out in paragraphs 5 to 9 of the report be approved. Do I have a second for that? Councillor White, thank you very much. So if anybody wishes to speak, would you raise your hand? Councillor White. Councillor, yes, please.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to say that I attended last year the Holi and the Diwali as well. An absolutely amazing, beautifully organised, great fun. The colours were amazing, but it was absolutely a wonderful community event. And there were so many people there, and it was open to absolutely anybody, bringing people of different communities, different faiths. So it's a proper event. That's the sort of thing that I think we really should support, and I definitely will be. And looking forward, hopefully, to coming along this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tyler.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I've known this organisation for last few years. I think before you formed the company in 2023. I've attended particularly the Diwali function last year, which they held at Kingston Academy. The mayor was an MP and few other councils. It was a great event. Lots of people from lots of different communities. It was very colourful and well organised. And I thought, they really did a good job for an organisation which only started in 23. And they have got good support from the community, local community as well. I'm sure this will be I didn't go last year to the Holi Festival, but I'm sure it'll be a good, colourful event as well. And as she mentioned about the Green Festival, and they do really look at the green and the environmental aspect. Even the last event was well organized and mainly having in mind the environmental aspects of the event as well. So, yeah, I like to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments? Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to a vote. Can I take this as unanimous, or should we have a vote? Okay, agreed. Well, thank you. Well, thank you for coming. That's agreed unanimously. So, and you can obviously liaise with James going forward. So thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. So we'll move on now to our second our second application. James?
Thank you, Chair. So moving now from neighbourhood community grants to councillor award funding, the committee's been asked to consider the award of £500 of councillor award funding to the Friends of Queen's Promenade, who are currently making their plans for the forthcoming King Athelstan Garden. We have Shoshan from the Friends, who's very kindly agreed to talk more about the project and what they'll use the funding for, should it be awarded. Thank you, Chair.
Hello.
Oh, welcome.
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak to you on behalf of the Queen's Promenade Friends. I'm So Chanel, a volunteer and committee member. I'm responsible for all our communications and social media. I'm sure you're all aware of the work our voluntary group does along the promenade, so I won't bore you with any details or background information, but please do ask if anything requires clarifying. So over the years, we have created 9 separate garden areas, and we're now planning a 10th garden. So we've recently prepared a large area down from Ginger Bee's Cafe, which was previously plagued by a severe bindweed infestation. After months of diligent clearing, it is being prepared for a new garden for the community. We have named this new area Athelstan Garden in honour of King Athelstan, who was crowned on the coronation stone in Kingston in 925 as the first king of United England. Kingston will celebrate this 1100th anniversary throughout 2025, and we will tie in our celebrations and formal opening of the garden with things being arranged by Kingston Council. We've earmarked taking part in the River Cultures Festival, which is happening on Saturday, the 6th of September. Covering approximately 160 square metres, this is a relatively large area to plant. During our planning, we have calculated that we may need around 600 plants for the space. Luckily, we can source them at wholesale prices through a Glendale-related nursery and other UK-like nurseries we have relationships with. In terms of all overall funding needs, we obtained a substantial grant from the National Garden Scheme, another grant from Vision Charity, who funded our sensory garden, and from public donations. So including your grant consideration, we would have a fully funded project ready to implement in spring. As far as the planting design is concerned, it will be an attractive, sustainable and biodiverse prairie-style design featuring shrubs, perennials, annuals and spring bulbs. We have adapted to the impact of climate change on gardening by choosing more heat-tolerant and drought-resistant plants and incorporating more native plants to support local ecosystems. We've also looked at the soil conditions in the area to ensure minimal ongoing maintenance. The garden will incorporate prairie or meadow-style plants to take us through the seasons, providing as much interest in the height of the summer as it does in the midst of winter. We have even researched and will integrate a list of Anglo-Saxon plants. I brought a plan of our garden, which you obviously can't see, but I can show you later. And there's a list of plants. The ones that are in peach are the Anglo-Saxon plants that we're incorporating. We've gone for a colour scheme that mirrors or matches the Athelston coat of arms, so blues, reds and yellows, and loads of grasses for the prairie meadow feel. In a nutshell, we are linking historic aspects of our local history with a modern garden design approach, advocated by leading garden designers in the country and organisations like the RHS. To celebrate and communicate the Athelston focus, we are also currently planning to install a man-sized wooden sculpture obelisk structure to be created by Tom Hooker / Wild Reclamation, who some, if not all of you, may know. The obelisk will sit in the middle of the area, away from paths and benches, be constructed sturdy and safe, and include a wooden sword and a crown with Athelston lettering engraved. We are also exploring the possibility of incorporating wood borer holes as a bug hotel into the design. So soft plants, perhaps climbers, will encircle the obelisk to bed in with the overall scheme. We get lots of compliments from local community, and the promenade is a tourist spot too. I've heard from lots of Surbitonians who now take a detour and take the river walk into Kingston, visiting central beauty spots like the Century Garden, the Pocket Park, the new woodland trail, which is loved by children and big children alike, the new bandstand and the Italian Garden. Improving the riverside walk is great for the local community. It gets people outdoors to walk, be physically active, engages community, gives community pride, creates a positive atmosphere, all having undisputed physical and mental health benefits. Our group is strong and growing, and we remain keen to further enhance one of our local key assets, the river and its promenade. Thank you for your time and your kind consideration. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I suppose my only question is, are there any boxes you've left unticked? That was that covers so many different areas that are important to us, so thank you. Question from Councillor Green.
First of all, wow. I mean, that's an amazing, sounds like it would be amazing. My question actually is a bit of an odd one. Does 500 quid meet your target, or if the committee was minded to give more, are there other things that you could do or that would help you to get to your target? Because it seems bloody good value, 500 quid, to be honest.
We haven't done we've kind of done a kind of back of a napkin or whatever it is, the phrase is, calculations. So we're kind of we should be needing about £5,000 to £6,000 in total. The National Garden Scheme was 2,000. We've been given 1,000 from Vision Charity. My recent fundraising campaign started at Christmas, and I mean, just last week we got £200 from the general public, and over Christmas we had about 250. So I can't count how many that is. That's 3.5. We've calculated that the plants themselves will cost about £3,000. So, yeah.
Sorry, Chair, if I may. It's just, what you've described sounds amazing, and we know the Friends of Queen's Promenade are capable of delivering what they say, because they've delivered all over the place down the promenade. I would just hate for you to have to cut back on some of what you plan because actually you run out of money. So either, I guess, it's does the committee want to A, approve this, and B, approve or approve a little bit more than this, or be welcome to you coming back if you needed, and I don't know what the rules are on coming back for the same project. So maybe that's a question to James. Are they allowed to come back on the same project for more money, should it be necessary?
Right. Yes, James.
Yeah, that's absolutely acceptable for council award funding. That's fine.
Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is it's more comment. If you find yourself a few £100 short, I'd hate for you to cut back on your plans because of it, and therefore apply again, or more now. I don't know. Not really with it today.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get to that just after we you get into the discussion. Do we have any further questions, first of all, for the, yes, Councillor Hurlner.
You waved a couple of pieces of paper at us, which I don't really need to see at the moment, but just want to confirm whether the list of plants has been circulated to officers as part of the application, or is just with you at the moment?
No, we haven't circulated any of the plants.
Okay, fine. So if we wanted to, we would have
Yes.
to ask you. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we're still at the planning stage. We've just kind of whittled it down to all our favourite plants at the moment.
Are there any further questions for Saoirse? Okay, well, thank you very much. If you'd like to go back to your seat, then we'll have our, we'll have a vigorous debate, I'm sure. Right, so I will start by moving from the chair. There's
no need to move that.
Okay, right, all right. Well, we'll start by, does anybody wish to make any comments before we move the, to come back to Councillor White?
Thank you. Listening to that there, it almost made me think I should have declared an interest at the end, because at the beginning, because I benefit so much from the Queen's Prom. I walk along it 6-8 times a week, and I totally benefit from every piece of work that they do. Not just that, but the actual benefit of bumping into people I know all the time and seeing how much they enjoy themselves and enjoy what they do for everybody else. I thought your presentation was absolutely fantastic. It completely covered absolutely everything, which is so much more than a weeding and making it look nice. It is the whole community and what it does and the difference it makes to absolutely everybody. So thank you very, very much for everything that you do.
Councillor Holt.
I just want to reiterate, or just to say again, I think your presentation, the detail that you went into was absolutely amazing, and what you've already achieved down at the promenade is really quite spectacular. And every time I go down, I just, I sort of point it out when I've got people visiting. I just point it out because it's just a lovely, lovely space to walk from Surbiton into Kingston or vice versa. So absolutely. And just to follow on from what Councillor Green said, I would be more than happy to support us increasing it, given that we have quite a lot of council ward funding left in the pot. I would be more than happy to increase it to £1,000 if anyone else wants to chip in and back me up on that.
Right, I'm hearing 1,000, going once, going twice. Okay, terrific. Councillor Wooldridge.
Oh, I was just about to say that, it was very competent, very capable, excellent, very good value for money by the sound of it, and £1,000 is a nice sum. That's confident. Thank you.
Councillor Tyler.
Yeah, I concur with what Dan and Alison said. It's an amazing project, and I think we should give more. I'm quite happy to support £1,000.
Okay. Right. I'll go ahead and move from the chair the following recommendation that the allocation that we allocate £1,000 of council ward funding to support the Queen's Promenade Friends for the new Athelston Garden project, as set out in the report, be approved. Do I have a seconder? Yeah, we all second it. Okay. Right. Okay. I think that's passed. I think I'm being told that's passing unanimously. Right. Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much, Saoirse, for your presentation. Congratulations. And we look forward to seeing the Athelston, if I can get it out, Athelston Gardens when it's finished. Thank you. Right.
Chair, Sorry, Chair, can I just add something? Is
Yes,
that all right?
Councillor.
Just very quickly. Just for anyone who hasn't been along the prom very recently, the wall is looking fabulous, isn't it? Because we're really benefiting from Kingston Town's generosity in their ENSO. There's a few really good projects going on at the moment, but the wall's been built between Ginger Bees and coming all the way back to the Italian garden. So please do go and have another look, because it's looking... I know Stefan's happy with it. I hope that you are thinking it does look lovely. Mm.
Yeah. Well, I'm very pleased that we're going to be able to make our contribution to the bit of Queen's Promenade that's in our neighbourhood. So that little sliver that's in Surbiton. So thank you. And of course, it will be the best looking. It'll be the very best looking bit of Queen's Promenade, I'm sure. Right, Councillor Holt.
Yes, I just wanted to, sort of in light of what I said in the last item, I have noticed under the point 17 in the papers, we're now finished all of our neighbourhood community grant funding. We've used it all up, I think, by doing the Namaste. But we've got 17,500 in our council ward funding, and we are getting towards the end of the municipal year. So I do think it's on all of us to think of things that would benefit our communities, like the things that have been brought forward this evening. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. Yes, thank you very much. So I think we're moving on now to item 7, which is the planned highway maintenance and street lighting capital program. So we have members of the committee and meeting participants can refer to Appendix B of the agenda pack. This is not an item for decision, but the committee is asked to consider the program as set out in Annexes 2 and 4 of the report and provide any comments for consideration by the Place Committee at its meeting on the 11th of February. So I'd like to invite George Vickers, Principal Engineer, to give a brief introduction on the report, and then we'll have a debate amongst the members. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm more than happy to present the report covering planned maintenance and street lighting for the 25-26 financial year. Just a couple of comments from the start, as this is one of the things that came up at Kingston, North Kingston last week. This is to cover planned maintenance, which is full width and full length resurfacing of a section of road. It will not cover potholes. That's a reactive maintenance function, and there's an ability to report those on the council website. In terms of the street lighting aspect, as per the resident's question earlier, unfortunately that's not something I cover either, and it's covered by some of my colleagues. The broad take with street lighting is they test columns, and if the columns are failing or presenting item of concern, that's why the columns are taken forward, and the lanterns that are being replaced are part of the wider LED programme. So again, it's columns that don't have LED lanterns on them are the ones that are being brought forward basically for this. In terms of planned maintenance, that is a function that falls under me and my Senior Planned Maintenance Officer, Gert van Werk. And what we do is basically we survey a large number of roads in the borough, which was 925 this year. Which is surveyed by the visual inspection and using a tool called Visala AI, which presents a score based on a small video recording of the section of road. And we use that to put together a planned maintenance list every year for all 4 committee areas in the borough. Some of the key notes from this year for us. We've only put 3 footways forward again this year because we've put a little bit more money into carriageways because we've got a wider concern about the direction of carriageways in the borough and some of the levels of degradation and deterioration that we're starting to see. This replicates what happened last year where we could only afford 3 footways last year as well. So that's why there's only 3 footways and not 4. In terms of the roads that we put forward for Surbiton, I'm happy to go over them just so can understand the logic and why they've been put forward. If we go down Annex 2, we start with, bear with me, Christchurch Road. Sorry, just one other point, as this is something Councillor Hurlinger made. On the street lighting annexes for the report, there was the odd occasion, I think it was Donaldswood Gardens, I believe, was listed incorrectly as being in south of the borough when it should be in Surbiton, and I believe there was a couple of other points that had also come up. Myself and Herman have noted these, and they'll be corrected for the police report.
Oh, sorry, George. I think that's supposed to be the other way around. I think Donald Woods Gardens should be in the south of the borough, and it was listed as being in Surbiton.
Yeah, I couldn't remember which way round it was, and I apologise for that. But I do remember it getting flagged, and I did say I would flag that. Completely my fault. Yep.
Okay.
Right, sorry, going back to the roads that have been put forward for this year. We've got Christchurch Road, which has been put forward. That's the first road on the list. And looking at the report, that came in the top 3% of the worst roads surveyed in Kingston for the last financial year, basically. So it was a clear indication of something that we wanted to take forward. Vaisala provides a score from 1 to 100, basically, on the roads, and that actually scored 28 as an average condition, basically, which put it in the top 3%, which is not good, basically. The next road that got put forward was Grand Avenue, which was something Councillor Davies flagged last year. That also scored equally badly, but actually in the top 1%. So in other words, Councillor Davies made the point that it needed attention last year. It 100% needs attention, and that's why we've put it forward for this year, basically. And that is to cover the section between Elgar Avenue to Greenfield Avenue, which was a section the councillor identified last year. Coming up on third on the list, we've got King Charles Road, the section between Berrylands Road to Berrylands. That scored in the top 5% on the section that we're focusing on, as Vaisala is really quite handy because it will give you an average score for the road, and then it will score you your worst 100 metres. And basically on the worst 100 metre score of that, which gets picked up by the resurfacing we're doing this year, it scored in the top 5%, basically. The fourth road on the list is Lovelace Road, and we're doing the whole of that. That scored in the top 4% on survey this year. The fifth road on the list is Princes Avenue, and that is a section, and on the section that we're doing, it scored in the top 2%. And sorry, bear with me. And then it's Princes Avenue is the next one we're doing, and sorry, I just said Princes Avenue, my fault. Next one we've got is Ravenswood Avenue, which scored in the top 6%, basically, on section. Oh, no, sorry, top 6% overall, as we're doing the full length of the road. And the last one we're flagging is Surbiton Hill Park, which scored, bear with me, and basically the top 2% of the section we're focusing on, as we're focusing on the section between Park Road to Surbiton Hill Park. And yeah, basically, again, scored particularly badly. Everything that's been put forward for Surbiton this year scores in the top 6% of one metric or the other. So we are, and that's a focus we're doing on all of the roads we put forward this year. Everything scores within the top 11%, basically. So we've targeted specifically bad sections this year to put forward, and I think that's a reflection of we're having to focus on roads that really have a real need now. Of the roads that you've got in the borough, it covers the whole borough's got 384 kilometres of road in it. Surbiton has just under 92 kilometres, which is basically just under 24% of the borough's roads. With the programme we're putting forward this year, we get 1.9 kilometres resurfaced, which is 2.1% of your total. And that comes to about 33% of the overall carriageway budget, which is the most of the four committees this year that anyone's getting. That's why we've not put a footway forward in Surbiton this year, even though there's probably footways you could make arguments for. That is broadly where I'm at, but I'm happy to take any other questions if people have got questions on the basis of that or things that you'd like to discuss. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, George. It doesn't look like we have any residents here to ask questions. It doesn't look like we have any residents here to ask questions tonight. So do we have any comments or questions? Well, let's start with questions. from councillors. So yes, Councillor Sharper.
Thank you so much for that. Just a quick question on the preliminary list of carriageways on Annex 2. You've mentioned Christchurch Road, the length of it. I just wanted to, my question was, have you been aware of the ongoing liaison that we've had, Jackie and I, Councillor Davis and I have had with your colleagues about resurfacing the area around the London Plane Tree? I just wanted to flag it up because it's been going on now for best part of 2 years, and they've marked the pavement twice, and it's actually the road by the London Plane Tree that was actually going to be quite an extensive piece of work that was going to be planned around that area. So my question is, I'm wondering if perhaps I could just relay that back to you, that residents have been waiting for about 2 years and we haven't had any updates from your colleagues who earmarked for the works to be done. So if you're doing the length of the road, can it please be done together with the pavement? Because the Christchurch church, we've been liaising with them as well, and it's an ongoing issue with the routes. No one's saying that they don't dislike the tree. Obviously, it's a huge tree. It's just that, can we just align the work you're doing a bit with what your colleagues are doing on the maintenance side, and can the two be done together? Because, as I say, we've been waiting a long time, and I wonder if there was a reason why there was a delay.
Thank you,
thank you. That was my question. If you could, I don't know if you know anything about it, but thank you.
I'll be frank, that's not something I do know about, and to clarify, I should have made it clear as well, and it is stated in the report, the section of Christchurch Road we're focusing on is between King Charles Road and the Avenue, but if that ties in with the work you mentioned, I'm happy to see if we can tie the two together, as that would make a lot of sense to me. Thank you.
Councillor Tylan.
Thank you, Chair. My question is about the access roads. Particularly, I'm referring to the access road behind Hook Rise North, number 322 to 348. The road from Tolworth Girls' School going up to Kenway. Recently, the highways team and some of the residents had a survey of the area. We're trying to make it a cycle route, but the access road is really bad. It's a council road, it's not a private road. And particularly at the junction with Fuller's Way North, and there's a big pothole, and it's flooding all the time, and the Tolworth girls normally use that. So making it a cycle road, it's been worse. So I think that I actually recently raised a members' inquiry as well to do that. So perhaps you can look into it.
Sure, thank you. If it's specifically just a pothole or just a series of small number of potholes, basically.
There's a great big pothole around the Fuller's Way North and Access Road Junction, but then there are small potholes further, but this is the one really needs looking to.
What I would say is, if it's relatively isolated potholes, a pothole or a number of potholes over a small area, what I would do is I would report them on the defects page on the council website, basically, as that will then get a highways inspector tasked to carry out an inspection on them, just to actually see if something could be done with them, basically. But I don't know if you've already gone through that. If you've already gone through that, that might be a separate issue. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Holt.
Thank you. I'm not sure if it's a question that you may be able to answer, but it's just something that's in my. I noticed, and it's in light of what the resident said when he came in. One of the residents came in about things being completed. So I noticed that in point B, it mentions what the cost of the work that's to be carried out this coming year and what was carried out last year, and we've got a list of the carriageways that were completed. I just wanted to know if we spent all that money on, that was allocated last year, because we've actually less. It was 1.9 million last year, and this year we've got 1.75 million that we're going to spend on the carriageway maintenance, and to confirm that it is a maintenance revenue expense rather than a capital expense.
Happy to cover off those points. One thing that I'll be frank, I'm quite proud of is I believe in being transparent where we can. If you look below point 13 on the following page, we've actually got the link to the web page that we put up for planned maintenance. As what we try to do is when we get awareness of when we've got a locked-in date, we will try and put the programme up on the web page, so it increases the transparency of what we're doing and allows it easier for councillors to cascade information to residents, basically. So in terms of what we've done this year that's listed in Annex 1, you'll see we've completed the majority of it, and the 2 roads we haven't are programmed for the 4th quarter, basically. We're just awaiting for a confirmed date on those. Looking at the funding for last year, and that's a really good point as well, the 1.95 million last year included funding from Transport for London for Richmond Road, and that's where the difference is between the 1.75 we've got this year and the 1.95 that was used last year, basically. The majority of that is because we got funding of £200,000 for Transport for London for the Richmond Road project. Unfortunately, TfL have not provided us an opportunity yet this year to bid for further funding for principal roads, which is one of the things that they do occasionally provide councils funding with. But if we do get opportunities for that, we're more than happy to take it. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Holt.
And this is revenue rather than capital?
I will be honest, I don't know the specifics of it, where I don't deal too much on the finance side, if that makes sense, but I can get you an answer on that, not a problem.
Okay, thank you. It would be quite good to get an answer to that, because I think it'd just be to be clear. I did have another question.
Oh, yes, Councillor.
Okay. And it is about the LED lights point as well. I had LED lights put in where I live, and there weren't letters put through, which annoyed some of my neighbours, and they didn't get any notification. So I just wanted to make sure that it's great that we're doing this rollout. It's really about the communication, not only to our residents but also to the councillors here, so that we know, and as you say, we can disseminate. Because I think it's a great thing that we're doing. It's a great project, and if it's saving money for the council long term, then I think so. So it's just really the communications that's going to go, the letters, and letting us know when the roads are going to, the lights are going to be changed, because it is quite noisy.
Unfortunately, I can pass that on to my colleagues in street lighting, but it's not something I have direct control over. Thank you.
Are there? Yes, Councillor Hurlinger.
Thank you. Point 7 of the report mentions the commitment to do 100% of the conversion to LED by the end of 2025. Would be helpful when the report goes to Place Committee if you can confirm that all the borough has been covered, either in the previous years or by the roads that are on the report that goes to Place Committee.
So basically get them to confirm the position on point 7, basically, that everything's been done as stated. Yeah, fine.
Are there further questions, comment? Oh. Yes, Councillor.
On the road maintenance, you mentioned that he's going to go on Grand Avenue up to Greenfield Avenue. Just want to confirm that it will cover the whole of that junction of Greenfield Avenue.
Sorry, which...
It says Grand Avenue, the maintenance will go from Elgar Avenue to Greenfield Avenue.
Yes.
I just want to confirm that it will cover the whole of the junction of Greenfield Avenue and Grand Avenue.
I can ask that question. I believe it would, because the Greenfield Avenue junction is not good. So, yeah, but I will confirm that point. Not a problem at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, I was looking at the wrong line. My fault.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I had just a question about the lighting. It was Councillor Manders mentioned that these lights will be centrally controllable, to turn the brightness up or down. I have had some comments from a few residents about the brightness of some of the LED lights on the footpaths. Are we able to turn those up in certain locations where it's required?
Again, that's a comment I'm going to have to put back to colleagues in street lighting. I believe that's the case, but I don't know that for a fact.
Okay.
So it's basically, is there ability to turn up the level of the lighting is the question? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean beyond where they're already set.
Yes, yeah.
In certain areas.
I believe that's the case, but I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, just because I can, okay. I've had it relayed to me that there are certain footpaths that are a little bit on the dark side. Councillor Menders. Yeah, I think I thought the resident was saying that he thought things had been marked as being completed when they hadn't actually been completed, but I think that probably bears a little bit of investigation. I believe that's in our ward, Surbiton Hill, so I think we might have to go and have a look. Sorry. Right. I took that he was complaining that it hadn't been done, even though it was marked to complete. But Councillor Holt.
I think he was my take from it, and I'm hoping he will make contact with myself or one of the other ward councillors. But it was more about making sure that it was done. So in his case, he was saying this one. So how do we know the other ones are done? So that I think it was more than just the one that he knows about. That was my understanding, and I think you're right. That's what he wanted us to look at, and that was where partly my question was coming from. But and the other bit, I was going to say that when my resident, nearby neighbours said to me about the lights being not as bright as before, I was told that the LEDs, the way that they're pulled down is very different from the previous lights, and the lamps that they put in or the covers around it can make a difference to the lights. So, but as to whether you can make them dimmer or brighter, which was your point, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, so I think George, you said you're going to look into that.
Yes, yeah. I'm happy to look into it. It might be helpful if there's a specific question, maybe if it gets put in as member inquiry as a formal written or something off of that. But broadly, can you turn up the level of the lighting with a street light? I imagine the case is yes, but I don't know that for a fact. I will raise that with them, not a problem at all. As there was a couple of other points raised, such as can they confirm against point 7 before it goes to place committee, basically, plus the questions raised by the resident earlier. Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you, George. Are there any, if there are no further comments from councillors, that brings this item to a close. Our comments will be taken will be included in the report that goes to place, as I understand it.
Absolutely. Like, if there's any recommendations for roads that you wanted consideration of, for instance, as like just best example, Elgar Avenue last year, we did obviously consider that, and when we've looked at it this year, we completely agree that. Grand Avenue was raised last year. We've looked at it this year, and we totally agree it needs to be included. If there's roads like that, happy to take an email or whatever, or you're happy to discuss them now, not a problem at all. But apart from that, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, George. You can. I think you stay or leave, depending whichever is you prefer. Right.
And just if there's any general questions on things like this, happy to take members' inquiries, or if needs to come back, happy to do a presentation later in the year, not a problem at all.
Excellent. No, thank you very much, George. Really appreciate it. So moving on to item 8, we have the Surbiton Neighbourhood Community Plan. That's in Appendix C of the agenda pack. So just invite James Geach, Neighbourhood Manager, to give a brief introduction, and we'll have a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As set out in the report, the committee has been asked to consider an updated version of the Surbiton Neighbourhood Community Plan, a draft copy of which is attached as Annex 1. So just a little bit of background. In 2018, following a review of the Council's neighbourhood system, each of the neighbourhood committees were given the authority to adopt neighbourhood plans to inform its decision-making, and in particular, good night, George, its decisions relating to the allocation of community grant programme funding. So following a consultation in 2020, the committee agreed the current version of the plan, a copy of which is also appended as Annex 2 in February 2021. So in terms, and this came up in the public question time earlier, what the plan does, I'd like to refer members now to Annex 3, because this document effectively sets that out. It sets out how the existing plan has been supported by the committee by its community grant programme awards. So if the plan is the call, then the grants programme is the response. And what you can see here is for each of the 3 objectives in the existing version of the plan, the grant awards the committee has made via the Neighbourhood Community Grants, Council Award funding, NSIL, to support those objectives there. And this is very much sort of, the carrot that we have to bring projects forward for the community plan. As you can see, the total, in total, you've made 59 awards to 48 local projects and groups since that plan was adopted in 2021. This was the stated purpose of the plans in the Neighbourhood Review in 2018, to set this framework for neighbourhood decision-making, and once again, those relating to the grants programme. Obviously, the plan is now 4 years old, so in order to ensure the plan continues to reflect local priorities, the Council has been undertaken the aforementioned consultation on the contents of the plan. And we have used this new dialogue portal on the Council's website. So if I can draw members' attention now to Annex 4, you can see in full everything from the public domain side, it's on C18, from that consultation. So this is everything from the public realm already posted on the public side of the website from that portal. 89, as of the 10th of January, we've had a few more trickle in since. 89 ideas were submitted to that portal by 67 different contributors. And these ideas attracted 172 comments and 463 ratings. So you can see this full breakdown here in Annex 4. And they are varied, I agree. There are varied ideas here, some of which are outside the scope of the plan. So as well as what we're going to ask in the committee to consider later, the adoption of the new plan, we have a good evidence base here that we can share with all our corporate services to help inform their service planning as well. In terms of numbers, because this did come up in public question time, the consultation was over a course of the year. We were led by the comms team, and we had a digital offer. We also had lots of physical offer. We had stalls or sections of the libraries, both at Surbiton and Tolworth, where people could come in and scan the code and leave their ideas as well as a stall at the Surbiton Festival. So at the moment, an updated number for you, we have 95 ideas for Surbiton, with 180 comments. And when you compare that to the numbers for the other neighbourhoods, south of the borough is 33 and 20, Kingston and North Kingston is 16 and 13, New Old Malden is 3 and 0. So I mean, we have been going a little bit longer than some of those, but we have tried to reach as many people as we can in Surbiton to get as many ideas as possible on the portal. Some of which, as mentioned earlier, can be enshrined in the plan, and others which we will share with colleagues in other services. Since the adoption of the original plan in 2021, the Council has adopted a new strategic plan with the commitment of making the borough greener, fairer, safer and together. So officers, of course, have analysed all of the new ideas within that context. So, I mean, and, given the strategic level of those ideas, it's, impossible to sort them exactly. Many of these ideas could sit in multiple categories. But we've attempted to do so in Table 1 there, to give you an idea of where these ideas fit within the Council's strategic planning. Whilst drafting the revised plan, officers have considered the themes and ideas from the current existing plan, as well as those submitted during the latest consultation. The revised draft, set out in Annex 1, has set 16 objectives for the grants programme. Remember, this is the reason for the plan's existence, fundamentally, to inform that decision-making. And these are based, following consultation with our strategic planning colleagues, within each of the borough's 4 strategic outcomes. But ultimately, this is the committee's plan. If the committee wanted to add objectives, take away objectives, based on the feedback received, that is absolutely in your gift to do so. So the committee has been asked to adopt a revised draft of the plan as set out in Annex 1. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you very much for that introduction, James. So before we move on to debate, I'll just move from the chair of the recommendations of the front of the report on page C1. The committee is asked to resolve that the updated Surbiton Neighbourhood Community Plan as set out in Annex 1 of the report be approved. Do I have a second for that? Yes, Councillor Conn. Thank you very much. So, with members of the committee who wish to speak, please raise your hand. Okay. Councillor Gonsalves. Yeah, got it. Okay. Great. Councillor, yes, I've got you. Yes, Councillor Gonsalves.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, James, and thank you for going through all the feedback and incorporating it into the plan. It's the first time that the ward of Tolworth and Tolworth Town Centre are part of the Surbiton Neighbourhood Plan, because the previous plan was done in 2018 and the wards changed in 2023. So I was expecting to see a little bit more about Tolworth in there, if I'm honest. In particular, points S1 and T1. So point S1 talks about improving the neighbourhood's public realm, in particular the area around Surbiton Station and Victoria Road, in order to make the area safer. We have quite an issue in Tolworth at Broadway, where we've had working groups with the police, with local charities to try and make the area safer, and I really feel Tolworth should be included in that objective, Tolworth Broadway and the town centre. And in the second point, very similar, T1, it talks about improvements to shared spaces, in particular the neighbourhood's town centre, and I think we have 2. So we have Surbiton and we have Tolworth, so it'd be good to make reference to both, not just one.
Okay, thank you. Of course, as James said, it's within our gift to amend the recommendations. So thank you for that. Did you want to respond to that, James?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. No, I agree. You're absolutely right, and they should be there. The reason they were highlighted in these initial objectives was that because they were actually named by a number of the people responding to the consultation. But I absolutely agree. They should be there, and I think we should amend this to include Tolworth Broadway in both S1 and T1. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Holt.
Thank you. I've got a few points. Do you mind if I do them together, or do you want me just to do one?
Oh no, please go ahead.
Okay.
I assume you're not going to be talking for half an hour.
I'll try not to.
Okay.
So it's. I suppose I'll do my points and see, James, how you want to respond to them. But I suppose when we did the neighbourhood plan the last time, we did come up with some objectives, and it's really good that you have gone through and identified all the grants, whether it's NSIL or otherwise, that have been allocated. But I actually thought that a crucial part of that was the other funds that we get as a neighbourhood, and particularly the community parks programme. And when you're looking particularly at somewhere like Alexandra Rec, which benefited hugely from that, I just think that has been missed. And that's in the outturn of the previous one, and also going into the current one. I think that the community parks programme is a vital part of that, and has been instrumental in a number of our green spaces. So that's probably, if I was to say something that I think is missed, and I think it would be really good to put in. The other thing that I thought was great was that we had to have the consultation like we did the last time. There are lots of residents have come up with lots of very wonderful and varied ideas in Annex 4. But looking at some of them, I'm just wondering if they're what is our, well, actually my question is, what are our next steps? Because there's a lot of things there, and I don't think we've really said how we're going to manage that, whether they're actually something that should be in our neighbourhood plan. And I think that probably goes into what Mariana's said, that, it is our neighbourhood, the whole neighbourhood. And I think we probably have to come up with how we say that. Do we say Surbiton neighbourhood, or do we say, or do we change the language that we're using as the points that Councillor Gonsalves has raised, as, where there's Tolworth is perhaps, probably not intentionally, but has felt it's been excluded. So I suppose the question is, how are we going to decide what we're going to do and when? And that really is what is our next steps? We've not got an action plan here. The last time we had sort of key outcomes and deliverables we wanted to achieve. So is there a next step?
James, did you want to come back on that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Please correct me if I missed anything. On the first point, on the community parks programme, yes, we can certainly include that. We can bring that in. That's absolutely fine. And thinking about that, when we talked about that, I have focused in the drafting of this of decisions made within the gift of this committee, because obviously there's lots of policies that the council has adopted by strategic committees and others. They all have an impact on Surbiton, so we could consider that more widely as well. But certainly the community parks programme is a starting point. The second one, I think, about varied ideas and next steps. Well, the practical next steps is, my primary use of the neighbourhood plan as a working document is sharing it with grants applicants or people who express an interest in the community grants programme, because, as you know, the purpose of this is to inform that decision making. So we continue to do that. We can include an action plan. Some of the anecdotal feedback we received from grants applicants who we shared the plan with is sometimes they found it misleading because they thought it was something we were already doing. They thought it was in train, things we had budget for. So what I've tried to do, and perhaps I haven't succeeded, is make this more clearly a list of objectives, things we're looking for the voluntary and community sector to assist us with, as opposed to a work programme. But I'm happy to work with members, of course, to improve that language if needed. And yes, I take your point about Tolworth, and that's often the problem with the name sometimes of this committee. I always assume that people know I'm including Tolworth in that, but I should be more explicit in that, and we can correct that language.
Right. Well, I always think of Tolworth as being, part of the Surbiton neighbourhood, but there we go. Councillor Holt.
Yeah, I think we do need some clarity on it. I understand. I think probably I'm going to go back to the principal reason for our plan is not about the grants that we're going to give. That is a byproduct of us having a plan. So I see the plan for our neighbourhood is multifaceted, and I don't see it as just that one thing. But perhaps maybe I'm alone in that view. But I see it as a plan for our neighbourhood, and then we have to look at how we could go about delivering that, and that that can be done by people who come asking for grants in order to deliver it, but it also can be ward councillors working with their communities to deliver it. It can be through the NSIL, it can be through our community parks. So I see it as a wider document than I think what's been reflected here. And when you've mentioned the council plan, that does very clearly have, and I'm happy with the layout of it, having the, the key things that we've got greener, that sort of narrative there, the greener, fairer, safer together aspect of it. But I do think, and what is in the council plan is an action plan. What are we expecting to do as a council, and then when we think it's going to be delivered. So I think I just wanted to know what the next steps are. And from what you said, I think the focus is too much on community grants for me, and I personally don't think that's the main focus of this plan.
Thank you, Councillor Holt. Councillor Shopper.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, James. I would say that obviously this latest version, the one we see now, is it's got great set of objectives, and for that I say that's an absolute plus, because you've taken the overarching the council strategy and you funneled it down. So I can see that a great deal of work has gone into looking at a good set of objectives. Where I think it may be a little bit of a gap, for want of a better word, is really just not wanting to repeat what Councillor Holt was saying. But it's about the process flow. In other words, the previous plan because it had the deliverables set out and it had from the outset, it was a really good tool to work with officers on delivery, because we were able to clearly sort of outline our intent from the outset and say, this is what we think we'd like to do, 3 or 4 per objective. And then we were able to work very clearly with officers using a timeline of a municipal year. And during that time, we separated, as Councillor Holt was saying, we separated it out, the idea of both a combination of different funding streams. So we had funding streams of NSIL, we had LIP, we had the community grants programme, as well as the capital budget, the budgets within green spaces and highways and so on. And they were the more fluid ones, because during the year, we didn't know as councillors at the beginning of the municipal year, when we set the budget, really how much money was in the pot. And as you know, a year to 18 months down the line, you're still developing and planning NSIL and LIP funding for projects that we discussed in 2020 that may or may not come to fruition 2 or 3 years down the line. So there's a lot of work that officers have to do behind the scenes. And then, as you know, when you look at the budgets, they can shift and they can change. Priorities change. And so what we did, we set out 2, 3 or 4, maximum 5 key activities and options and ideas that we felt were feasible and realistic. What I feel this slightly lacks, although it's great, it lacks that action orientation at the end of the process flow that says, how do you align the objective of what the activity is that you plan to do? And as councillors, I would like to think we're being very proactive in coming up with initiatives and ideas. But because it's been based quite generically on the feedback from residents, there's a little bit of a not misalignment, but there's a little bit of a gap where I can see that there might be challenges a little bit further down the line if we haven't come up with say 3 or 4 or 5 things in a municipal year, and we haven't got that certainty at the beginning of the financial year, that we know that we're going to get things done. Because quite rightly, officers could turn around to us halfway through the year and go, well, actually, we might not have the funding for that. And you can go, what you don't want to do is go all the way down the line with residents and associations and friends of groups, only to find that you haven't got the funding certainty at the beginning of the municipal year. So that's where I think this slightly offers us a challenge. And that's what I want to highlight, is the idea that you've got a worked up plan at the outset with 3 or 4, up to 5 maximum things you can do in a year, and they're costed out. You have a good idea, you've had a good grasp of what the finances are, what that could be. And the second point is just around the idea of, I would say, milestones and having perhaps an indication during the year whether you're meeting your objectives. Because without the timeline, you know, the SMART principles, without the time, T for time in there, it's quite difficult sometimes to see how far along you're going and whether you're actually meeting your objectives. So I would say somewhere in that year, there probably would be really good to have some kind of review of what ideas are coming through from local councillors, because each ward, it's nuanced, each ward will have their different things they want to do, but we might not be able to do them all in the time and with the resources available. So it's just getting an idea from both officers, but from within our group. And then just the very final point was implementation, and how do we as councillors, how would we like to see the process of decision making going forward? How is there a mechanism for us to agree on what ideas we want to bring to the table? Do we do that in this group or outside? So I just wanted, rather than having an answer to that, I just wanted to put those things forward to say, great, but there's a little bit, I think, a little bit of work that could be done around this, just to get the activity side of it, you know, confirmed a bit more in advance. So that they were the 3 main points, really.
Okay.
But great job.
Okay.
But yes, if I can leave that there, Chair.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor. Are there? Well, I will just I'll put myself on the. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tylan, you go ahead and then I'll speak.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Following from what Mariana said about Tolworth Broadway, I do recollect about 45 years ago, Tolworth Broadway was entirely different. There were lots of high street banks, there was a Woolworth there, the building societies, big, large post office. And now there are 5 off license. So that's why kind of people who attract to Tolworth Broadway, mainly, you know, the people who drink on streets. I remember about 2017-18, I think a company was commissioned to look at how the Broadway can be developed. And I remember doing a walk from Tolworth Station, from then to Tolworth Broadway, looking at what can be done. There were plans, I can't remember the company's name, but yeah, probably the idea was to develop and probably into this plan. So I don't know what happened to that. They were even planning to develop our side of Broadway and Broadox, you know, the lovely Broadox at the back of Broadway. They had plans for that as well. But I don't know what happened to that, but whether that was fit into these plans. But.
Okay. Yes, so are you able to shed any light on that, James?
Thank you, Jen. No, I don't. I do recall the Broadway survey. It wasn't in Surbiton at the time, so I don't have the details. I can confer with colleagues and I'll find out what happened to that. Members may know better than I. I see Councillor Waldridge has his hand up.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Waldridge.
Yeah, hi. Having been a resident in Kingston and in Surbiton for, if not all my life, most of my life, I think we really do need to look at Tolworth Broadway. The report I think my colleague's looking at was put together some years ago by a very professional firm called Arup, and they're the best people in that space to do that. And I think we do look generally outside the remit of here, but we really do need to look at the economic development of Tolworth and what can be done, because a lot can be done in Tolworth. And this will be an initial step. So great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor. I would just say that I think probably when I started this, I looked at the plan very much in the way that James was outlining it. This is as James outlined it, the plan is mostly used, or has mostly been used for informing the grants program. It is the objectives that we'd set out in the previous plan, which hadn't been revised for a number of years, were a little bit confusing, especially since they had certain quite general objectives set out in the first year that weren't carried on into the second year, and on a number of the different items. So this approach of saying, and I feel that the priorities that have been listed here, G1, G2, and F1, etc., really do, I think, encapsulate most of the points that were being raised in the previous plan, with the possible exception. Oh, sorry, if Tolworth councillors are done conferring, with possible exception that perhaps we want to specifically acknowledge Tolworth in the plan, and so I was wondering if we, if James feels that we should add something to the resolution to sorry, annex. Right. Sorry. Yeah. No, that's fine. Actually, I withdraw that comment, and I'll go over to Councillor Green.
No, you just made me think of something. So when reading the plan, I think part of the problem is we say Surbiton. We often don't say Surbiton Neighbourhood in various points, which, Tolworth, Berrylands, Surbiton Hill, they are different aspects of Surbiton. I know Tolworth is more different because it's got its own sort of shopping centre. Just to make that clear, it would be quite nice, actually, on the plan to have a little map. So, yes, mention Tolworth, I'm not against that, but have a little map just to explain what do we mean by Surbiton. I'm St Mark's Ward. I think virtually all of our residents, apart from the ones that actually have KT1 postcodes and really live in Kingston, in their heads, right down at the bottom by Lower Marsh Lane, most of our ward know where they are, but I would guess that Tolworth, parts of Alexandra Ward, do people associate in the right with what we make as boundaries? So that might help with that association.
Okay, yes, definitely. And I always think of Surbiton Neighbourhood as being quite inclusive, but I've said that already. Councillor Shopper.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you've sparked my point that I forgot, Liz, about in the plan. I'd love to see Berrylands mentioned in there because one of them talks about the public realm TS1. Councillor Davis and I, as you know, we've been working with you, James, about trying to make improvements around the station. So I think it would be great to try and emphasise that area as well, which we haven't done. And I'm sure, and I think it was just, I was hoping, James, that when my question to you before, I know it sounded a bit more like a comment, but the question was whether you thought that it would be helpful to bring specific, very specific, location-specific activities and ideas in addition to what we see here, whether you would be presenting them or what your thoughts were on whether there was a mechanism for us to bring that back to a committee to look at what we're doing during the year. So I know it sounded a bit more like too much of a rambling comment, but there was a question in there. No, thank you, Chair.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Did you want to come back on that, James?
Yes, thank you, Chair. No, I think that's really helpful. I think you're right. I think that will lend texture to the plan. And I think that something that can work well. We currently do a ranger report in December. We could, talk to Herman about putting something on the forward plan at a semi-regular basis, which lends that colour and texture to it. I think you're right. I think it does help it pop. It makes it feel more real then, doesn't it? A bit more visceral.
Councillor Herlinger.
Yeah, I agree totally with Councillor Green about having a very a map sort of in the action plan so that residents know what the area covers. But I'm looking at sort of the wording on the very start of the neighbourhood community plan, where under vision it says to make Surbiton a better place, whereas I think you should, the rest of the plan it's saying neighbourhood. So I think if we could change that wording to make Surbiton neighbourhood a better place, that would also be helpful.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Through you. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And when Councillor Green made her point about the map, I did think that should have been addressed in the preamble as well. So I think that's an excellent suggestion. I'm happy to add that to the introduction. And also, we've got some excellent maps that detail the wards at a very low level. It would be very easy to add those, Chair. I'm very happy to do that.
Right. Not to be a case of too many chefs and stews and all that, but perhaps when you mention Surbiton neighbourhood, we could say incorporating and then list the 5 wards as a bracket, as a parenthetical comment. Yes, exactly. So, and when you do, make sure it's in alphabetical order so that nobody gets offended. And Tolworth comes last. Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments on this? I've heard Tolworth, yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, Councillor Waldridge.
I mean, it's the gateway to Kingston.
Okay.
That's it. The gateway to Kingston. No, it's the gateway. It's technically the gateway to Kingston. You know, it's reflecting a strategic location.
Right. We'll put a sign. We'll put a big, massive sign on Tolworth Broadway. Gateway, gateway to Kingston. Morning. Oh, sorry. You're going to get yourself in trouble, Mayor. Right. Okay. Right. Thank you very much. Now, I've heard the suggestion. I mean, as I was saying earlier, I think I would just add to what I was saying earlier. I think I see this as a living document and something that we're going to continue to revisit. I think talking to James, we want to come back and revise this on an annual, review this on an annual basis. So I think there are plenty of opportunities to come back and incorporate a lot of the ideas that we have come out today into the plan. I would very much, in terms of looking at those 95 different ideas, I'd very much welcome anybody who wants to join me on a working group to go through those ideas and try and make a little bit of sense. Yeah, okay, excellent. I see one volunteer. I'll canvass everybody. I'll canvass everybody later and see if anybody else would like to join us. But let's look at all those ideas and come up with some more concrete, just some more ideas in terms of how we want to organize that and what is the best way to organize a plan. And I think one of the things I very much want to make sure that we do is that we continue to encourage the community to come up with the ideas, that they come forward with the proposals, and that and obviously after sense checking them, we can think about how can we deliver the things that residents are asking for. Thank you very much. So I will, if there are no further comments. So Herman's has pointed out the committee will be given an opportunity to review the plan again in 12 months' time. Does anybody feel that we need to review it sooner than that? No. I heard a no.
Just a quick comment, Chair, about what you I think rather than an annual review, well, in addition to an annual review, as you're saying, I thought it was a really good idea about having a working group, and that could be something that you could have an in-year report that's maybe could be looked at it, brought to the Surbiton Neighbourhood Committee on ongoing progress, you know, in terms of the ideas that you were suggesting that we bring forward, either from ourselves as ward councillors on behalf of residents, but I think that would be really helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Right. If there are no further comments, can I bring this to a vote? Can I take it as unanimous, or should we go to a vote? Unanimous? Agreed? Yes? Okay, thank you very much. So that is approved unanimously. And then that just remains to say the work programme. Members, please note that work programme in Appendix D. Do members have any comments on the work programme? No. I hear one person saying no. Okay, thank you very much. There are no urgent items, so I'll close the meeting at 9:30.